Today's guest is Michael McDowall. Growing up, Michael was introduced to yoga and meditation through his mother, a foundation that has stuck with him throughout his life. He's spent almost 3 decades learning about wellness, exploring areas like homeopathy, Bowen Therapy, and Reiki. And as a senior faculty member of the Radiance Sutras School of Meditation, Michael loves helping people experience meditation as a rich, sensory, enlivening experience, whilst producing all the benefits of deep rest, relaxation, healing, and clarity. Michael McDowall is passionate about the outdoors, enjoying water sports, and taking photos of Australia's natural beauty. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Ash. Great to be here with you, particularly with you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, my friend.
You know,
It's normally we start off with your turning point. I got to jump in and just say a contribution you had to one of the most major turning points in my life.
yeah.
And so that was 2016, November 2016, and I was in hospital. I'd been through very, very trying health circumstance where I went in for a back operation and they tore a vein and I had a lot of blood loss and I ended up effectively dying. The only person that said I didn't die was the doctor, really.
Yeah.
He said I
Yeah.
gave them a fright, but other
Yeah.
than that, the had no pulse, wasn't breathing, an experience leaving my body. And you, in the recovery time, you came into the hospital and gave me Reiki and sat with me and guided me through a meditation, which I used many times for pain relief.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such a gift. So I'd want to acknowledge that here and thank you. And it means a lot to me, but thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. And that moment, there's moments in your life that you remember that are really, really special, and to be able to be with someone and to help them when they're in a difficult time, it's a rich experience, not just like, yes, it helped you, but it's also a really rich experience for me as a person, to share,
Mm-hmm.
to share some insight, some inspiration, and the gift of Reiki to start with, which well, and also that gift of meditation. And I don't remember exactly the meditation I shared with you at the time, but the gift of a meditation that allows us to really connect with who we are and all of who we are. One that doesn't chop off bits and pieces and say, well, you can't go there, don't go there, but really being able to embody and bring yourself together. And this is what I think that as healers, whatever, and I'll use that term loosely because I don't really consider myself a healer, right? But as people in the helping field, surely we want to help people integrate themselves, to come to bring all the parts of themselves that they're pushing away, that they're not used to acknowledging and welcoming them. And that's one of the gifts that I've certainly received from what we'll get to talk about my turning point in a little while, but from my teachers.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I reflecting on things I push away and having a little aha moment. It's like, right, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Indeed. And that
indeed.
way that things land, even though I've heard them 1,000 times or 10,000 times, it's like, that just landed a little bit more in your sharing.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had a conversation with one of the students. We'll get to, I'm in the faculty of the Radiance Sutras School of Meditation, and I was having a conversation with one of the students recently. We were in a class, and she was talking about some experiences and whatnot, and we got her to read part of one of our books. a definition of a Sanskrit word it was. And what I noticed was as she read through it, she skipped over a particular phrase. And I spoke to her about it later. I said, you edited that out. Let's have a look at that which you edited out of your experience and really be aware of that. And she went, yeah, I did, didn't I? I said, should we go there? And she said, yeah, we should go there. Right. So it's interesting that we edit parts of ourselves out, and you've got this work that you do about the inner critic, right? That our inner critic will edit out the parts of us that we don't see as part of who we are, I think, and say, well, yeah, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome here in this view that I have of myself. You know, you're not welcome. And it's like, okay. Once we start to recognize that we're pushing parts of ourselves down, suppressing them, and say, maybe I need to spend some time with that part of myself, we integrate them and we start to honor the gifts that they were actually giving us. You know, all of those parts of us had some reason for showing up at some stage or another.
It's something really interesting about that work is that the parts are there to serve a purpose.
Indeed.
And the seeing and the acknowledging of those parts allows them to become freer and be released of that purpose that they were initially serving, which may not be serving us anymore, like, you know, like the protection or whatever it might be that they're doing. But then when we see them and hear them, acknowledge them, allow them, give them space, even ask them, what is this part here for?
Exactly.
And it's like, it's to serve me. It's to serve me. And I've been pushing it away. It's really, really a powerful, powerful process.
Yeah. We, through our 200-hour training of teachers of instinctive meditation, one of our weeks is called the inner theater, you know, and recognizing all the parts of ourselves that show up. You know, and those parts of packets, nearly like packets of energy, you know, and they're waiting to be expressed, and they'll bubble up. And it's like, you know, the game where turtle puts its head up and you knock it down, you knock it down, but it's every time you knock it down, it's still going to come up, right? You knock it down again, it's still going to come up. Eventually, when you say, okay, well, up you come, welcome to the party. What have you got to say? You know, what wisdom are you offering to me? And if we think about in yoga terms, we could think about maybe it was a protection thing from a certain chakra. Maybe it's a wisdom of being hurt in the heart. Maybe it's wisdom about speaking out. Whatever that wisdom is, there's an instinctive wisdom that those parts were offering to us at the time and providing. And then, like you said, they were serving us at the time. But over time, they can start to fight with other little bits and pieces of us, you know?
Yeah.
Because they haven't been listened to. Say, okay, well, that was really great, protector. I really needed you at that time. I really needed you, or I really needed the rebel at that time to help me through that period of time. Or I really needed the recluse at that time because I had to go inside to protect myself in a way. You know? But then you get to the point where these things arise and they're not serving us now. They don't serve us now.
Mm. Mm.
But they need to be welcomed. The energy needs to be welcomed and thanked and blessed, and a sense of gratitude for all of who we are, I suppose.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that that's such a common thing in human experience? That those parts, and that our running system, our operating system has these little facets that are common to. I've never met every human, but to almost everybody I've ever met, they have these parts, whether they acknowledge them or deny them.
Yeah. Well, the archetype. Blah, 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 blah. You don't need to edit that out, but archetypical, right? That there are archetypes that we have as part of the human experience, and there are parts. I was talking to another student recently about the Jungian archetypes, and interestingly, looking at there was 12 in his sphere. One of the interesting things about that is when I looked at the picture of that it was broken up into 4 quadrants, and I don't remember the names of each quadrant, but looking at the picture of that, if you looked across, the archetypes are complementary to each other. And one of the things in our practice of instinctive meditation, and that my teacher shared with me and shared with all of our students, is that we want to embrace the full spectrum of life, right? So there might be something like a protector, and the opposite to the protector might be someone who wants love and intimacy, right? So there's all of these opposites, and you can create whatever opposite you want for a particular characteristic. And life is about a flow and a movement between them and embracing them. Quite often, if we think of meditation, people look at meditation as looking for some point of stillness in the middle. Whereas our perspective on that is embracing the whole spectrum of life fully, so that you fully experience this and you fully experience that. And that there's a dance between these opposites, and life is the dance. Life isn't looking for stillness in the middle, but it's more like embracing all of who we are, embracing all of our experience. Some of those could be named good, some of them may be named bad, but not necessarily. If we look at light and dark, we have to have light and dark. We don't look for grey in the middle, right? We don't seek to have life as grey in the middle. But we know that we have to go in the depths before we can come to being lighter. You've been deep. I was there when you were deep. That was deep, that was dark, that was heavy. And yet out of that, there's an enlightenment that comes. Yeah. So we've got to look at holding, being welcoming, tolerating that full spectrum of our experience. Until we do that, we're probably not going to really understand what life's about.
Yeah. And you think, well, this is what comes to mind: meditation, education are the keys.
Education about meditation is the key. Yep. And you educate people in different ways, and I got a lot out of, you spoke about homeopathy. I got a lot out of homeopathy. And I got a lot out of my career as a technician in Telstra, right? In that life sometimes seems to be a problem to be solved, right? It seems like life's a problem to be solved, but learning to ask the right questions for insight is what I learned. Within Telstra, it was learning as a manager, it was learning to ask the right questions of the people who were smarter than me, who knew how to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But learning to ask the right questions, learning to ask open-ended questions, and in coaching people in meditation and in homeopathy, it's learning to ask the right questions. And like in a podcast, you ask the question, you sit back and you listen and you wait. And you give and you hold space for someone to have their experience with that question. Yeah. Sure, there's a number of sort of tenets and rules not rules, but tenets. Yeah, even rules. I even say, like in instinctive meditation, we've got a couple of rules. One of them is don't smack yourself around the head if you have thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's completely natural. And another one is be tender with yourself. Whatever arises, be tender with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is be as effortless as possible, right?
Mm.
The fourth one is engage with things that you love as a doorway into meditation, And if we take those four rules, very simple, but really hard to follow, if you've got this paradigm of meditation being sitting there quietly having no thoughts, and that you need to sit still and focus. But if you bring effortlessness, tenderness, this idea of compassion for yourself, and the idea that you're going to have sensations, thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires arise up as you come and sit with yourself. If you embrace and welcome all of those, then what tends to happen is that you will run through and cycle through and cycle through, and then you go, "Ah." And that's when you start to get this, your body comes into rest, relaxation, and you get the benefits of what you would say is a meditation practice, but really it's life skills.
Mm. Yeah, that was landing for me. These are life skills that, for example, the compassion. If I'm compassionate with myself, I'm compassionate with others. And when I'm compassionate with others, my environment softens. It's not a battleground. It becomes more loving and kind, and that we're there for each other rather than against each other.
Indeedy. And this we call instinctive meditation the path of intimacy, right? Where it's being intimate with our own experience to start with, and I'll get to my turning point in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
When we become intimate with ourselves, then we can hold others in an intimate way, in a loving, compassionate, empathetic way. If you can do that for yourself, then you can do that for others. If you can't do that for yourself, then you can't. It's not possible to hold other people in a safe space, right?
Mm.
So you can't. So like and we talked about this before we started. You said, give me a turning point, and I said, well, I'll give you a turning point, and I gave you, and we'll talk about that. But there's so many turning points within our lives, right? It's a constant. We're constantly coming up and we're saying, am I going to go this way, or am I going to go this way?
Mm.
One of them, I think, is, if you want to think about it, is deciding to be born.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blessed to be born to a mum who was interested in yoga and meditation. So that could be my first turning point is, yeah, I'll go with her. I'll go with her. And she was when I was in utero, right? She was doing yoga and meditating when I was a bump, and there was something more to life than this physical reality in her awareness, and in the field that I suppose that I was brought up in, was more obvious to me that my recollection of it was when I was about 13 or 14, and she just put meditation tapes on as we were lying on the wooden floors with the sun coming in the morning, and lying there and feeling the sensation of floating away with the clouds, as this guy was leading a floating away cloud meditation, you know. And further along, she left a yoga book in the house, and when I was about 26 or 27, I just started teaching myself yoga out of this book.
Mm.
Following asana, and then lying down in shavasana and going, ooh, that feels good. You know, just that feels good. Just the sensation of movement of energy in my body, and the feeling of what it feels like to have had that energy move and then come to rest in that, you know. Well, I think a little bit later on, a fellow at work offered me the Celestine Prophecy as a book to read, opening up the idea of more to the idea of the world being about energy and movement of energy. Then I was doing some kung fu, and my kung fu teacher started doing yoga before class.
Mm.
So I'd go and it'd be part of his warm-up while he was studying to be a yoga teacher. And then he opened up a yoga class before the kung fu class. So I came to that. And then he let the kung fu class go and turned it into a yoga school, you know.
Wow.
And that's another, okay, well, I'm going this way. And I did a little bit of yoga here and there around the place with 5 or 6 different people. And they had all trained at the same place. Now, you go around now, you go to yoga teachers around the place. They've been trained all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my experience then in 2009, 2010 was the 5 people that I went to, that I came across, they all trained with the same people. And you're going to say, well, if that's not rattling your cage and saying, if you want to do yoga teaching, that's the place to go.
Mm.
It's like, there's a path, that path was laid out, and it's like, okay, I'm going that way.
Mm.
It wasn't like, oh yeah, I have to force myself to go that way. It's like, okay, that's the way I'm going, you know.
Mm. And so were you doing homeopathy at that point? You had been a
Yeah.
homeopath.
So I started studying homeopathy about 2010.
Right.
Sorry, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
About
Yeah.
2000. And I got introduced to that by a mutual friend of ours, Denise,
Mm-hmm.
who, she was another turning point. My wife at the time was taking my son and herself to Denise for Reiki treatment. Denise is a Reiki master, as well as a homeopath. And Leanne said, you need to try this. You need to at least just give this a go. And I went, okay, I'll give it a go. And she gave me a treatment. And the experience of Reiki was like enlightening, not with a capital E, but enlightening. It was like, oh my goodness, there's definitely this flow, this movement of energy that in me that I can feel, that no doubt can't be measured by any scientific instrument. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly it's not going to be, but I'm feeling it. And you get to experience something that you feel and you go, wow, there's something in that I was skeptical about, because I had a bit of a sciencey nerd, right?
Mm.
And a technician using instruments to measure stuff. It's like, okay, wake up, here it is. There's definitely more. Your mum was right. Your mum was right. And and she felt in me that I was open to it. And essentially, like, she just, after we finished, she stood up and she turned around and she said, "Here, take your hand and just stick your hand in the middle of my back." And she said, "Can you feel that in your hand?" I said, "Yes, I can feel that in my hand." And that was pretty well it. That was it. Tuned in, turned on, and it was gifted to me in that moment, in that session, regardless of this idea of going to a Reiki master and paying them money for attunements and stuff like that. I believe in that, and I don't believe in that at all.
Yeah.
Right? I believe in that, in that there's tradition to be taught and stuff like that, but I also don't believe in it at all, in the fact that it's something that's available to everybody and can be shared with everybody.
Yeah.
If
And
they're open to it.
yeah, yeah, yes. And I have to say that was a turning point for me in my life too, when I was given the gift of Reiki. And, before that, I just thought, we just come and go and we die. And when we die, we die. And there's no God, or there's no afterlife. This is it.
Yeah.
And then when I was attuned to Reiki, I was looking at my hands going, whoa, whoa, there is something in this. And that was a life-changing moment. And I remember another one which was connected to Reiki was I was working in a school, and it was a special school, and one of the girls would have very severe seizures. And one day she had an aide with her, and she'd collapsed in the garden, was having a really severe seizure. And the aide couldn't leave her, but to go get help because of the danger of her hurting herself while she's having a seizure. And I happened to come along, and I put my hands on her head like this, and my hands went white hot. And in the instant they went white hot, I had this sense that she's going to be fine. It was like this voice just said, she's going to be fine. And I just held her, and my hands burned and burned and burned. I've never experienced anything like it, even since.
Wow.
And that, having that awareness, wow, this, I didn't imagine that. This is immeasurable, not measurable,
Not measurable.
beyond measurement.
And probably immeasurable as
Yeah.
well.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
like vastly infinite capacity, I would say.
Mm. Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
An infinite capacity.
Mm. Yeah. Very interesting. Just the it wasn't me doing it, of course, but I was there present, so that whatever energy needed to come through came through into her,
Yeah.
through those hands, and through the experience of somebody gifting me Reiki.
Yeah.
And I think, for people who haven't experienced Reiki, it's like it was for me, it can be quite a woo woo, not real kind of thing.
Was for me too. Was
Yeah.
for me is like, what are you talking about? Seriously? But if you're open enough to give it a shot,
Mm.
I haven't had anybody who's never experienced anything from a Reiki treatment.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people who say, I don't believe in that. And so, well, you might experience a little bit, might be not much. You might feel tingling, you might feel swirling, you might feel buzzing, you might feel this. And this woman got off the table and she went, like, it was like a psychedelic kaleidoscope within my head.
Mm.
I said, you know, that's what some people's experience is.
Mm.
You being open up to seeing something that you weren't aware of before.
Mm.
It's incredible, and it's probably boundless in its capacity in what it can be used with and for.
Mm.
You know.
How would you describe Reiki to people that don't know much about it?
Well, the word Reiki means universal life force, right?
Mm.
So if you consider the space around us is full of energy, and if you're someone who's spiritual, you might think that's a benevolent energy that is here for our well-being. Reiki is an attunement to that, to allow it to come from the space through a particular channel into where it's needed. And someone who's been attuned to Reiki is someone who can be a channel for that. And it can be as simple as putting a hand on someone, like you said, just putting a hand on that girl's face.
Mm.
A lot of people use it just for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reiki attunement just for themselves. And I will use it in meditation a lot. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to be here with myself and just let whatever the universe has got to flow to me, whatever it is that I need.
Mm.
You know, we don't know what a particular person needs. You can say, okay, well, here I am. Let whatever's needed for this person to come into this person.
Mm.
You know, so it's a universal life force, and it's, you know, yoga traditions talk about the chakras and nadis and the flow of kundalini energy and prana and shakti and things like that. The Japanese Reiki, universal life force, the Chinese qigong, all of it, same thing. In my opinion, all of it just discovered or remembered
Mm.
remembered from a different place. I imagine the shamans would remember it as a different name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the indigenous Australians would remember it as a different name.
Mm.
You know, so I think it's just that tapping into life and letting it flow benevolently where it needs to flow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. And so if we go back to yoga teacher training, you've already been a practicing homeopath.
Yeah. I still, it was part-time. I was still with Telstra.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the homeopathy didn't take off for me as I suppose, as a path. It certainly helped me in the way that I hold space for people,
Mm-hmm.
in an openness, in a way of listening to people to hear the essence of what they're saying, and even the essence of what they don't say. As I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about that woman earlier, but to learn how to really listen closely for what's important in what they're saying. It can be, you know, you're taught to watch the energy that people talk with. If particular words come out that have got more energy in them, then they're words that you might hone in on a little bit more. So it taught me a lot about listening. And it taught me a lot about that I think within us that we hold the key to our own healing. That homeopathy is similar suffering compared to, so homeopathy means sort of similar, similar,
Mm-hmm.
pathy, suffering, similar suffering. So the idea of homeopathy is you give someone a medicine that would create a similar experience in someone who is healthy. So you match them up
I seem to
Yeah,
remember somebody saying like treats like.
yeah, like treats like.
A bit
Yeah,
like if you've got a hangover, have a beer in the morning and the
a bit
hangover
like
backs off.
that. Yeah, 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 yeah. A little bit hair of the dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or, or old wives' tale of if you get yourself sunburnt, have a warm shower, not a cold shower.
Mm.
That's another like treats like scenario.
Hmm.
Um, Old wives' tales are usually got some basis in experience
Hmm.
that actually works, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, coming from hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or over that of experiencing connection to nature and
yeah,
passing down in the lineage of tribes,
indeedy, right? Yeah.
which is easy to forget in the world we live in now, right? It's all about what's the new thing, what's the new thing, not
Hmm.
what's the ancient wisdom.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And like the Radiant Sutras, which is the Radiant Sutra school of meditation, is based on ancient Sanskrit text. Yeah. That my teacher, Dr. Lauren Roche, he's got a PhD. He did a PhD in research about the language that people use to describe their meditation experience.
Hmm.
He says a PhD and no one's ever read it, but you know,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
that's what PhDs do, right? They do their
Yeah.
research. But but the I call it a poetical transliteration that he's done of a text called the Vijnana Bhaiva. It's called the Radiant Sutras. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the first record of paper, not even paper versions, of written versions of the Vijnana Bhairava was about 800 AD. And before that, the tradition's an oral tradition where where it's 142 verses long, something like that.
Mhm.
Takes 15, 20 minutes to chant when they're at, or 45 minutes to chant when they're at full pace,
Mhm.
and passed on generation to generation.
Mhm.
And he says that the people who wrote it, who created it in such a way that yes, it's tradition, but it's also relevant for today, for people right now. They wrote it for us now,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
so that we could be in this time and experience the benefits of it now, you know. And the subtitle for it is the 112 gateways to the yoga of wonder and delight,
Mhm.
you know. So it's basically 112 verses, 112 different doorways in the meditation. But the yoga of wonder and delight, and if we think of yoga as conjoining and bringing everything together and integrating human experience, and of wonder and delight, of being alive in the world now and looking at it in a way that is, oh my God, I'm alive.
Mhm.
Like a, like a kid is always looking at a plant or a bee or a bit of Lego. Oh my God, I'm alive.
Mhm.
What can I do with this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so much of the idea of meditation is that has been a paradigm that's come through, has been that it's a serious thing, you know, that it's a focus thing. You need to hone in, concentrate, and be here and now, and don't let your mind drift this way or that way. Whereas if we come into the idea of what's something that you love to do, Ash?
Me.
What's
Oh,
something you just love to do?
be out in nature.
Okay. So if you consider, all right, I'm going to use something that I love to do as a meditation. It's like if I just think of something that I love, being out in nature, and engage with that with my senses, so you can visualize that natural spot. You can recall, remember the sounds, recall what it felt like for the air to be on your skin at that time. Remember what it felt like to be in your body. If being in nature, maybe you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Feel into what it, just as you're sitting there, feel into what does it feel like? What did it feel like for me to be walking through that path? What did the air smell like? What did it feel like for the air to move in and out of my lungs? And when we engage with something that we love like that, like being in nature, we can become fully immersed in the experience. And when we become fully immersed in something that we love, our body physiologically drops into parasympathetic, right? You'd notice if you did that your breath would have changed
Mm-hmm.
with me
Yep.
as you were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you started to remember, recall, feel what that was like, and you start to soften and relax. Yeah.
Mm.
When our bodies are made to move from, and I talked about this before, from one thing to another, from stress to relax, sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we engage with something we love and we can relax into it, we engage the parasympathetic nervous system, our body physiologically changes. And when that happens, then we start to heal stuff.
Mm.
And that healing comes into our physical body, but it also comes into our emotional body, our spiritual, our soul, our subconscious. Our subconscious then starts to present to us the nasties, those things that we could have done better yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
or those things that we didn't do so well 10 years ago, and reminds us. And we get to tenderly hold ourselves in that experience and just let it play out. And what happens is our brain works on the way that we could have been better. And that's when people have that happen, they say, I'm not meditating
Mm-hmm.
because I'm thinking of something else. I'm not thinking of that beautiful walk in nature.
Mm.
I'm thinking of the fight that I had with the spouse yesterday, and I'm not supposed to do that.
Mm.
But what it is you're given a gift. Your subconscious soul has brought it up for it to come into your awareness, so that in the parasympathetic you can replay it from a place of safety, place of you've created a sacred space, and your mind is brilliant, natural to say, I could have done that better in this way. And that'll run through.
Mm.
So you start to choreograph how you're going to be better in the world next time.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're in a relaxed state. Something arises. You have a little bit of discipline to stay with it. And then naturally the solutions start to rise up for you, how you can be better in the future. And that's what we want to do. We want to integrate experience,
Mm-hmm.
not beat ourselves up over it.
Mm.
Bring it in, cuddle it in, hold it in, and say, it's okay that I wasn't perfect then. A solution's going to arise to help me to be better next time.
Mm. Yeah. Feeling that gateway through the discomfort, and the having the self-compassion there to hold the experience as it's
Indeed.
happening.
Indeed. So that's a skill. That's a skill. The self-compassion to hold it, but it's also a skill to learn to find doorways, ways into meditation that allow you to come into that relaxed state where those things can arise.
Mm.
Yeah, so just simply like me asking you what's something you love to do,
Mm.
you know, and to guide you into that through an exploration of what the sense memory of that is.
Mm. Which incidentally, I remember that's what you did when I was in hospital. And the weekend before the weekend before I went into hospital for the operation,
Yeah.
I'd been on a retreat called the Awakening of Love and had this amazing, heart opening experience connected to self healing, seeing patterns that were playing out. And there was a friend there that was with me, right? And that was a pivotal moment for him. It was that weekend, his life was going down one road and took a sharp turn, and he just blossomed, right? It just, and for me, I went the other way. I went into this hellhole of an experience where, extreme health, emotional pain, relationship breakup, all that. But when I was in hospital, you said to me something along the lines, think of somewhere. And I thought of that afternoon after the retreat where it was down Byron Bay, swimming at Tallows Beach in the corner. And I was in it. I had that experience of being in it. And so, yeah, now that came up when you were describing that sensory experience of doing something that you love. It was like, that's right. I was in the water.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, sweet. And like it's always available to us.
Mm.
It's like everybody's got an experience of. Sometimes people find it really difficult to say, what is it? What's something that you love to do? No, and they go, don't know. Maybe they're not ready to open up, or maybe they're not ready to look at it, or whatever.
Mm.
But another question that we can ask people is: has there ever been a time where you felt so totally absorbed in an experience that you just lost track of time?
Mm.
You know, I'm sure that that's happened with a guitar with you, right?
Only about 25 years.
Only about 25 years worth, right? But so everybody's got something, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whether it's digging their fingers in the soil, or
Mm.
whether it's painting or whatever, or whether it's singing, or whether it's dancing, or whether it's being at a rave or whatever, we all have an experience or that we can come back to and say, yeah, that was an experience. That was an experience that I just felt completely myself, completely at home, where I was totally absorbed and nothing else mattered. Yeah. And we can remember them. And it's simple as asking ourselves questions like that.
Mm.
Then there's some sort of guidance through a process of, well, what did it feel like? What's your skin feel like? What did you hear? What did you smell? What did you see? People that might be cooking, eating a lovely meal with friends. What did it taste like? What's that food taste like in your mouth? So when we build a rich sensory experience, we really get people to dive into it, and they can become lost in it. So that, again, like I said before, you go into that place of restfulness that where the healing arises out of.
Mm. So what I'm thinking about is, there's the perspective pain is the gateway, right? And then you're saying that actually joy, beautiful
Mm.
experience is the gateway, but then there can discomfort and self-judgment and past experiences can arise. And then if you stay with
So,
that, you'll come out the other side.
so nobody comes to a path of seeking something like meditation just for shits and giggles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not turning up just say, oh, I want to find out what it's like to meditate.
Mm.
They're coming because there's there's a path that they're looking to follow that is different from the path that they're on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's because they've got stuff that they want to work out. And may not even know what it is, right?
Yeah.
But by coming to it, by setting an intention of coming into a meditation, you are opening the doorway for that which is healed, which wants to be healed, to arise. Guaranteed. There's a guarantee, right?
Mm.
Happens. And if you can let people know that to start with, then they're not surprised and they're prepared. And you tell them, I'm here to listen. As a coach, you tell them, I'm here to listen. And you get them to practice with you being able to hold themselves. And you do the holding to start with, right? But you teach them things like it's got to be effortless. And you need to learn how to be tender with yourself and your own experience. Because too often people are ready to berate themselves, right? That they didn't do it right.
Mm.
I didn't sit there for 20 minutes and I didn't have 19 minutes of an empty mind. I failed at meditation. I got nothing out of it. All I did was beat me. I had to go up against the wall, boom, boom, boom. And I did that for a long time because like I had a path of meditation that was put your attention here and keep it there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when it's there for long enough, then you'll get insight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come to my turning point. Right. So come to 2015 or 13 or 14, relationship not great. Broke, it was really difficult for me. I got completely lost in it. That ended, and I was looking for something. I was listening to a fellow called Matt Kahn, who is his podcast and his YouTube channel is like All for Love, and he started me on the way, and it was like his lesson for me was you need to be able to look in the mirror and say I love you and be okay with it, and that's hard, right? That's hard when when you've come through something that you're not sure that you're worthy of anything much. You're not sure you're worthy of being loved by other people, or you're not sure whether it's moments of not being sure whether it's worth being on the planet. Just moments, well, not serious, but
yep.
But they're there, and that's hard. And like he said, you need to be able to look in the mirror and say I love you and be okay with it. That took me months, but I saw that it was worth it. It was a discipline that was worth it. And 2016, in March of 2016, I'd been through that. I'd started to come enjoying that idea of, yes, I'm worthy of love, right? And I love you. Because if you can't love you in the mirror, as I was saying before, if you can't love you in the mirror, hold yourself in the mirror, you can't do it with anyone else, really. Then Facebook thin thread. I was still looking for something. I saw a workshop on the Sunshine Coast where I live with Lauren and Camille, who are my teachers, and now they're my friends. and I work with them every day, to an introductory workshop, a weekend workshop to the Radiance Sutras. And when I got to, just going to grab a drink of water. When I got to that workshop, I found my place at, sort of towards the back of the room. And they were sitting at the front of the room. And I watched how they were interacting with each other and how they were interacting with the people in the room. And I said, whatever they've got, I want whatever they've got. This is a married couple they were 68 or so at the time. Vibrant, healthy, rich life, just exuding from them. It's like, yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Like, I was enrolled with them on that day.
Before they'd even spoken or interacted with you.
Yeah. And what I saw him and what I recognized in them was that they love life, and they love it as it's presented to them in the people around them. And love's a big word, but they love people. They love life. They love everything about being alive. So I was enrolled, and they had a 200-hour teacher training going. I said, yep, I'm in. And I flew to the States in August for a week-long workshop with Lauren, and I sat down with him on close to the last day with him and another young fella he's 40, who was assisting at that. And I said, I don't want to dick around with this. I'm not going to muck around. I want to be on the A team. So it's like self-enrolling. It's like, I see something I want, go for it. And that was like that period of time. Now, 2020. So I did teacher training with them. Then I did the teacher training again with them, and they asked me to facilitate small groups and to lead sessions and whatnot within that next training. Come to 2020, when COVID's reaping havoc on the world, they decided to move towards doing some stuff online, because it was mainly in person, but then going more to being online. And we're traveling around at the end of traveling Australia at the end of 2020, which was joyful, getting pushed from pillar to post because people were closing things down and opening up, closing it down, opening up. But that was the time. I was in South Australia, sitting on the Eyre Peninsula, watching the sunrise over the morning, meditating. And Lauren said to me in my meditation, he said, well, when are you going to start work, Michael? And then I said, well, can you wait? And I said, internally, I said, can you just wait until we get home and start in January? Yep. I get home at the end of December. Beginning of January, I find that they're running online teacher training, starting to wind up a big online teacher training. And I said, do you want a hand? To the young woman who was the program director, and she said yes. And I've been working in that with them ever since, and it's just like, never been happier as far as work's concerned.
Yeah.
I get to use the skills that I developed while I was in Telstra for 20 odd years, management, tech skills and the like, as well as I'm part of the teaching faculty. So I'm teaching new teachers along the way, and getting to spend time with people, learning how to help other people to have those moments that you were talking about, that meditation can be like this, hey?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be hard.
Mm.
So yeah, it's beautiful. I'm really grateful,
Mm.
really grateful, and I love it,
Mhm.
love it. So yeah, we've put in from 21, 22, we've put 1,000 teachers through teacher training. So, and for me, it's like thousands a good number, but then I think, all right, there's 1,000 people who've come through this, who think something different about meditation, and who have think different about life. Yeah. And every one of those people, as they walk down the street, that energy is being spread. So it's not just those people, but it's the people that they touch, and then there's the people that, so the ripple effect. And I'll often, when when things are a bit difficult, remind people, even Lauren and Camille, even our teachers, that the ripple that they're sending out into the world may not be seen everywhere, but it will go on forever.
Yeah.
And what you do with people, Ash, it's like whatever good you bring, if whenever you lift up one person, then it's going to ripple on, and it will ripple on, and that's the biggest joy, I think, is that just by helping someone be a little bit lighter, then you're lifting up everybody that they
Yeah.
come in contact with, and that they come in contact with, and
Yeah.
their children
I know, and it gets passed
and their
on
kids.
generations, 100 generations, 1,000 generations, and it
Yeah.
just, yeah, I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, is that when you do that good work, and that you just help one person get clarity, or have a different perspective, or be more connected to themselves, they get the gift of that. And
Yeah.
whether or not they know it, they pass that gift on to everybody they come in with, all their kids, as you were saying, and just goes generation and generation. And I'm amazed how different the level of consciousness is in kids. And I have a 17-year-old daughter, in her friends, compared to when I was a kid. So, and my experience was different to yours. I didn't have anybody doing yoga or meditating in my house, but it came to me mid-30s meditation. But what I see, I sit in a cafe and I hear 18-year-olds talking about how they're judging themselves and all these kind of things. I'm like, wow, that conversation was 20 years away for me.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, Michael, thank you for sharing your gifts today with me and with the audience. And what beautiful work you're doing. Truly beautiful work.
Well, it's a pleasure, mate.
Mm, mm,
It's a pleasure.
yeah. And
It's a
so,
pleasure. Like, I'll give you a big hug. Love you. Heaps, mate.
receiving and returning. And so if people want to get in touch with you or with the school.
So I promote the school more than I promote myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they can check out the Radiant Sutras at join.radiantsutras.com.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an online community. It's there's a 30-day free trial on that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of courses and classes. It's based in the States. Some of the class times are a little bit US centric, but if you don't mind getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for a class, which I do quite often, it's
Mm-hmm.
all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of recorded stuff on there, lots of audio meditations, and like I said, a bunch of courses. Locally, my website's ourheartperceptions.com.au, and I coach people one-on-one. Don't have so many, don't have many group classes, but coach people on Zoom. If anyone's interested in, if they've heard anything that they like about instinctive meditation today, they can find me there.
Yeah.
They can
Brilliant.
find me there.
Yeah.
You'll stick the link in the
Yeah. I'll put everything in
thing.
the show notes.
Yeah.
And what are you most grateful about for your turning point?
Oh man, the ability to be able to, as we got to the end there, to recognize that what I do can lift up people just a little bit. It's only a tiny bit.
Yeah.
It's only got to be a little tiny. The fact that I can talk to someone and they can go, oh, I see, and that they understand a little bit more about themselves. And if we can understand a little bit more about ourselves, then we can be different in the world, and we can be different in the world for everyone that we touch. So that's what I'm really grateful for, the fact that I can see that, and I can know that it's going to impact a lot more than just that one moment.
Mm, what a good reminder.
Yeah.
That impacts more than just that moment. Well,
Yeah.
Michael McDowell, thank you. Thank you so
Thank,
much. And, I have internal gratitude, internal, eternal, both gratitude for the gifts you've given me. And what a pleasure it is to chat with you today. So thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations, you made the end of the podcast. Thanks for staying with us. Would love to hear your comments and insights. If you have any, please feel free to do that in the comments box below, and press subscribe, ring the bell. It's always wonderful to have an audience that come back, and your insights in the comments are valuable to other people. So please feel free to share those, because the insights that we have, we're human, and it's all part of the human experience. So your insights go to adding value to others. So please feel free to comment. If you're interested, I have an amazing inner critic quiz that I've set up. And in that quiz, you explore aspects of your own inner critic which may be blocking you from taking action, or self-sabotage, or feeling not good enough, or perfectionism, or imposter syndrome. And what you do is you answer the questions. It takes less than 3 minutes, and what you get is, firstly, your result, which has 6 aspects of the inner critic and how you rank on those aspects. And the other piece that you'll get is straight into your inbox, is a 20-page report, and it's personalized to you. So it'll have your results, and it'll have the 6 aspects and how you're ranked for those aspects, as well as strategies for working with those aspects of the inner critic. I've tried to create a really valuable tool for you, and feedback is that it's a fantastic tool. Check it out. Would really love to hear what you think of that tool. And also, it's proving very powerful. I'm getting lots of feedback that people are saying, oh, I was stuck on this and I did the quiz, and now I see that I was caught up in self-sabotage, and the strategies to how to work with that are there, and people are using those strategies and moving forward. I'd love that for you too, if you're feeling that you're blocked in some way. Sending my love. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell. Love for you to click on the inner critic quiz and get something out of that too. See you again sometime.